So everyone is muted at this point. You're welcome to share your video with us so we can see you. If we reach a point in question and answer where you want to ask something in person, you can wave your hand and I will unmute you or ask you to unmute yourself so that you can ask it. Otherwise, if you just use the chat feature, if you send a message to everyone, I'll see it and I'll be able to let Chef Cal know as the questions come in what anybody has to say or ask. So if I can give a brief intro, Cal Kraft has worked in the corporate division of the Travel and Hospital. I'm sorry, I'll start that sentence over again. Cal Kraft has worked in the corporate division of the travel and hospitality industry for 30 years. Since retiring, he has pursued his interests in cooking and running a country inn. Chef Cal is a certified personal chef and a chef instructor for Fairfax County adult education programs in the culinary arts. He has presented several programs for Fairfax County Public Libraries. Most recently, he presented Bacon, Bacon, Bacon and Made in Virginia as a guest of the Pohick Regional Library. I'd like to thank the Friends of the City of Fairfax Regional Library for co-sponsoring Family Fun in the Kitchen with Chef Cal today. So, Chef, take it away.
Thanks, Sharon. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody, to all the moms and all the little folks. We're glad you could attend. It's a beautiful day, and we're going to have some fun. The kitchen is the heart of the home. I think it's the one place that everybody seems to gather, not only for preparing meals and eating meals, but for sitting and talking, discussing family matters, and just getting together. Today, what I want to do is share some kid-friendly meals, things that are really easy to fix, but I think the children will enjoy. They're easy, the recipes, you should have them. Everything is easy to find in the store. I don't like presenting recipes that you have to go to 4 stores to find the ingredients. So I try to do it so you can go to Giant, Wegmans, or whatever, and you should be able to find everything. So we're going to do that. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about some basic truths about cooking. Most people think cooking is really easy, and it is. There are certain things, however, that you need to understand if we're going to do it and do it correctly. Number one, most mistakes in cooking occur because people do not understand the recipe. The recipe is sort of like a roadmap. If I tell you I want you to go to Washington and I hand you a roadmap, there's a lot of different ways you can go to get downtown DC. The recipe is the same thing. It gives you a way to get to the end results that you want. So what you need to do when you look at a recipe is read it 3 times. First, read it just for content. Read it then so that it follows the sequence, and then finally read it and visualize everything. Second, having the proper equipment. To really do right by cooking, you need to have the right equipment for what you're going to do. You certainly, if you're going to make pasta, you don't want a 3-quart saucepan. You need a big pasta pot. If you're going to cook an egg, you don't need a 14-inch saute pan. You can use a small skillet. So basically, understanding that makes it a lot easier. The taste of the finished product is in direct proportion to the taste of the ingredients. So what I'm saying is you want to use the best you can afford and always the freshest you can get. 4, know and understand how your stove works. Burner size matters. Small burners are for small pots, big burners are for big pots. Also understand your oven normally has hot spots, either in the back or the right or the left. And once you understand that, it's easier to know that when you put something in, maybe halfway through the baking, you need to turn it so that it comes out even. The only difference to that would be if you have a convection oven, because the convection oven moves the heat around. Allow enough time to complete the task. That's part of reading the recipe. Make sure that before you start, you look at the clock and say, okay, it's 5 o'clock. This has to cook for 30 minutes. It'll take me 30 minutes to get it ready, and we'll eat at 6. You don't want to start something at 5 and know that it's going to take an hour and a half to cook, and you're planning dinner at 6:15. It's not going to work. Remember mise en place. Mise en place is French, and what it means is a place for everything and everything in its place. The secret to cooking is that you have all the ingredients, you have them all sliced and diced, you have all the equipment you need, and everything is there before you turn the stove on. The last thing you want to do is turn the stove on, because you don't have time, once you turn the stove on, to be going through all of that. Number 7, watch the modifiers in recipes. What do you mean by that, chef? 1 cup of cooked rice versus 1 cup rice uncooked. The difference is 2 cups. When you cook rice, uncooked rice, and you cook it, you get 3 cups of cooked rice. So you have to watch the modifiers. Flour. There are sometimes you'll see flour sifted. It'll say 1 cup flour sifted, or it may say 1 cup sifted flour. The difference is the flour that is sifted has air in it, and the flour that is unsifted does not. So you just want to be aware of that. Butter is usually almost always unsalted, unless otherwise stated, simply because we have no idea how much salt is in the butter, and we prefer to put our own salt in. Eggs are grade A large, usually at room temperature. Eggs weigh 2 ounces, 1 ounce yolk, 1 ounce white, and I have no idea how the chicken knows that, but that's about the way it goes. You want to slice and dice everything to equal size when you cook it, so that it all cooks evenly. Classic example is when we talk about ingredients like carrots and mushrooms. Mushrooms cook very easily, carrots take longer, so you want to try to keep everything together. You want to keep cold foods cold, hot foods hot. A warm pan, cold oil, foods won't stick. And metal and glass bowls make the best prep bowls. They do not allow anything. Plastic bowls allow oils and things to get into the plastic, where metal and glass do not. And they clean up easily. They can go in the refrigerator, and they're the best thing to use. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the recipes we're going to talk about today. The recipes, I sent you 9 recipes as part of the information package we sent out. We are going to do 5 of them. We're going to do rainbow spaghetti. We're going to do banana stuffed French toast. We're going to do ants on a log. We're going to do quick and easy banana boats. And we're going to do pumpkin and raisin walnut biscotti. I want you to understand, before we start showing everything, is that while the ingredients shown may say 6 eggs, and when we show the ingredients, you'll only see 2, it's because when I prepared the dishes, I prepared it to make a single serving. If we were doing this in person, yes, I'd do a whole recipe and then cut it up and share it with everybody. We're not, and so I do a basic single serving. So let's start with rainbow spaghetti. Anybody can make regular spaghetti, but only really cool moms make rainbow spaghetti. Can we see the first slide? Here's the recipe. You need 1 box dry spaghetti, and you want to use the regular spaghetti, not the whole wheat, because we have to dye it, and whole wheat spaghetti will not take the dye. We used McCormick Nature's Inspiration food colors. We used 3 of them. The red, the blue, and the yellow. And the reason we use McCormick's Nature's is the dyes are made with natural plants. They're not chemical dyes, they're plant dyes, and we just prefer doing that. However, you can use any food colorings that you have handy. You will need 3 1-gallon size zip bags. You'll need 1/4 cup of olive oil, 4 tablespoons of melted butter, and 1/2 cup finely grated Parmesan cheese. If we can, next slide. And here you see our products. You can see what Nature's Own food colorings look like. Packaged of spaghetti, butter, olive oil, cheese, and the bags. We can go to the next slide. Here you see we've cooked the spaghetti, we've drained it and rinsed it and just left it in a bowl. We prepared the 3 dyes, and they're basically, they come in a pouch and they're powder form. And you just basically put a teaspoon of each color in a small bowl, and you add 2 tablespoons of water. And I used lukewarm water, and you stir it and keep stirring it so the colors dissolve. And then you get the vivid blue and the dark red. The yellow was not probably the least favorite of the colors that we did. I thought it was a little bit more difficult to see when we put the spaghetti into it. But, and these colors are water-based, so even though I did spill some on the counter, and it was easy to get up. But if you're having the children, be careful because it could get on clothing, and I would assume it washes out. I didn't spill any on myself, so I don't know. But if your children are there, you want to be careful to do that. Next slide, please. Here you see what I've done here is I took the spaghetti and I divided it into thirds. And I put a third in each one of the bags. And then we added the food coloring. So what I did is I poured the food coloring in. Then I took the bag and rolled it because you want to get as much air out of the bag as you can. And then sealed it and double checked to make sure it was sealed. And I put them in a bowl and just let them sit. The recipe says to let them stand for 5 minutes. I think you can let them stand a little bit longer. I don't think it's going to hurt. The color will be a little more intense. And since it's cooked pasta, it can sit out a while. It's not going to hurt anything. And then if we can go to the next shot. This is the finished product. You see the pasta, you see the red, the blue. When we rinsed it, came a little lighter, and the yellow, and it's got the spaghetti on it. Once you've marinated the pasta, you take each bag and you rinse the spaghetti with warm water, and then you drain it again. Then you combined all 3 spaghetti pouches in one bowl, and I used a metal bowl. And I stirred it together. And then I drizzled it with the mixture of olive oil and butter and tossed it. And then I plated it and just sprinkled it with Parmesan cheese. I can tell you, you can store the leftovers in a container. We did have some left over, and I stored it in a glass container in the refrigerator, wrapped in saran wrap, and then reheated it the next day. I just put it in a 300-degree oven. It was in a pie plate, so the pie plate was oven safe. And I just cooked it until it heated through, and it was fine. But can you imagine when the kids come home and they say, Mom, what's for dinner? And you say, let's have rainbow spaghetti. And it makes a really neat presentation. So that's rainbow spaghetti. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Would that be the same 1 teaspoon of a liquid food color?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Would it be 1 teaspoon of a liquid food color? Did you say yours was a powder?
Yeah, I would look at the liquid. When you look at the liquid, see what it says. Probably 1 teaspoon would be fine with a couple tablespoons of water and just stir it. I would think that would be fine. It would just depend on each food coloring's a little bit different. So you need to check the box, but okay. It should do it. And with the liquid food colorings, I think you can get more colors. I really was looking for green, and I didn't have green. So you may be able to do that. Yes. Anyone else?
And then it's served like at a room temperature?
You could serve it at room temperature, or you could reheat it.
Okay.
One of the best things about pasta I find on reheating is just putting in a like a ceramic a pipe plate, something that's oven proof, and just set your oven at 350 and just put it in until it's hot enough for what you want. You don't need to cook it long. You just want to reheat it. And then you can reheat it, put it on a plate, sprinkle some cheese on it, and let them go. Okay? Hi, sweetheart. How are you? She's a doll. Anybody else? No? All right. Let's go to banana stuffed French toast. Here we go. Banana stuffed French toast. This is a recipe that I came upon we used to take the family, all of us would go down to the Outer Banks. And I have 7 grandchildren. And at times they can be very fussy eaters. But the one thing they liked was French toast. And when I started making banana stuffed French toast, it was a big hit. Now, unfortunately, I have some grandchildren that have allergies to nuts, so I left the nuts out. You can, if you want, you could put raisins in, or you can just leave the banana stuffed French toast. For this recipe, for a full-size recipe, you're going to use 6 eggs, 1/4 cup of milk. You can use regular milk, whole milk, skim milk, 2% milk, doesn't matter. You need 4 very ripe bananas, 1/4 cup of brown sugar. You can use either light or dark, does not matter. The walnuts, if you're going to add them, if you have no nut allergies, you could also add pecans if you wanted instead of walnuts, or peanuts instead of walnuts. If you have allergies, just omit the nuts. You could use raisins or chocolate chips, mini chocolate chips, or just leave them out. You need some grated nutmeg, and if you can, freshly grated nutmeg tastes so different than the ground nutmeg. Freshly grated nutmeg means that you have the actual nutmeg. It looks like a marble. And using a zester, you just grate it. And if you've never tasted the difference, if you have a chance, you have a whole nutmeg, grate a little on a plate, and then next to it, put some from the ground nutmeg container you have and taste them. The freshly grated will taste twice as flavorful as the ground. The other thing with the whole nutmeg is the whole nutmeg never goes bad. You can have them in your cabinet for 2 years and it's fine because it does nothing until you grate it. So I always recommend freshly grated nutmeg where possible. You'll need 8 slices of either egg bread or a good quality thick white bread. Keep in mind, guys, when we're making French toast, we're going to take the bread and dip it into an egg custard mixture. Thin bread, when you dip it, will start to fall apart on you. So using an egg bread, which is usually thicker, or a good quality hearty white bread, or even Texas toast, is preferable because it gets a chance to soak up the custard, and then when you cook it, you get that really great custard flavor into the bread. You'll need 4 tablespoons of sugar. You'll need unsalted sugar, please. Confectioner's sugar for garnishing, and jam or maple syrup when we're done. Okay, let's look at our ingredients. Next slide. Here we go. I have 2% milk. I use chopped walnuts. I use ground cinnamon, and you see the whole nutmegs. You see the butter. I use Nature's Own honey wheat bread, brown sugar, confectioner's sugar. I have the bananas, and I have the eggs. Next slide. What you're looking at here is the mixture, the 2 mixtures that become the basic for the stuffed bread. On the left is the egg mixture. And that is a combination of the eggs and the milk and the cinnamon and the nutmeg, and you stir that all together, and that's going to form the basic custard that we're going to dip our bread in. Yeah. The right picture, the bowl on the right, that's the bananas mashed up. You take the bananas, you break them up.
I have the recipes.
I'm sorry? Okay, you take the bananas, you break them up, and with a fork, you mash them, and then you put in the brown sugar and you mix it up, and you get a paste-like consistency. What you want to do is take the bread, spread the brown sugar on the first bottom slice, put the top slice on, press the 2 together, and then dip them in the egg mixture. And you want to dip both sides. You dip it in, you press down a little with a fork, you gently turn it, press again. And then here you see the bread in a skillet, which has about 2 tablespoons of butter in it. Once the butter's melted, you put the toast in and you start toasting. And you toast it until you get one side toasted, and then you turn it with a spatula carefully to the other side. And I think the next slide is the finished product. There's the finished product. It gets nice and toasty. And then you spread a little powdered sugar on it. I put a piece of strawberry there. You could take a slice of orange. You could put some jam. Some people like to put maple syrup on French toast. It just depends on your taste. But children love this. Now, if you have a small pan or you don't have a griddle, what you want to do when you cook your French toast, set your oven at about 180 or 200 degrees. And as you take the French toast that you've cooked out of the fry pan, put it on a cookie sheet and put it in the oven to stay warm till you finish making all 4 or 5 pieces of French toast, and then you can serve them that way. Do we have any questions, anybody?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Nothing, huh? Let me tell you, once you eat this, you'll love it. It's really good. All right.
It looks really good. Looking forward to trying that.
Oh, I think she's going to love it. Does she like bananas?
Yeah, she does. But we do like French toast. We usually make the challah bread French toast.
That'd be great. Oh, challah bread would be great. Yes, it would absorb that egg nice and give you a nice crust. It should be enjoyable.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have a question? All right, we'll go on to our next recipe.
It looks like we have someone who has a question. Is it Noella or Bella?
Bella.
Bella, you have a question for Chef Cal?
Hey, that's I thought you didn't know me, but I'm 5.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
She didn't have one.
Oh, you didn't have a question. Oh, and you're fine, right?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again. All right.
Okay. All right, we'll go on to ants on a log. I don't know if anybody realizes what ants on a log are, but I grew up with these as a kid. A lot of times I come home from school, and my mom would have what we called ants on a log. It's basically celery stuffed with either peanut butter or cheese, and it's got either mini chocolate chips or peanuts or something on top of it. It's a fun snack to have. Now, one of the things you do want to do with the celery is, if you don't want to use the big wide white part on the bottom, because that's a little bit tough. So you want to cut part of that off. And you don't want any part on the top that has leaves, so you want to cut that off. You want to wash the stalk. Now, here's the secret to having tasty celery, is you want to peel the celery. If we can go to the slide. Second, well, these are the ingredients. You see, I have the celery slices. All right, can we go back one, Sharon? All right, whoops.
I think I have to go back into it. So hold on. I'll see if I
Okay.
can do that.
There we go. Okay, here we go.
What to the next one again? Sorry about that.
All right, that's okay. What you see in the front one is the celery. You see chocolate chips, and you see I had 2 boxes. The light yellow are golden raisins, and the orange box are currants. Currants are just baby raisins, and you can use either one. In this picture, what you see me doing is I'm peeling the celery. I know when you eat celery, you find there's strings in the celery, and they get in your teeth, and sometimes they're a pain in the neck. If you peel the celery, the outside of the celery, you get rid of the strings, and it becomes a lot more palatable. So if you have a vegetable peeler, like you see what I'm doing, you just go ahead and peel the celery. Next slide. Once the celery is peeled and washed, we can take in this case, I'm using peanut butter. And we want to stuff the inside of the celery. Now, if you have a child that has peanut allergies, I did a cooking class for hors d'oeuvres for the Fairfax County, and this was on the menu. What we did is we made two versions. We did one with peanut butter and we did one with sun butter. Sun butter is a butter that looks and tastes just like peanut butter, except it contains no peanuts at all. So if a child has a peanut allergy, you can still make ants on a log using the sun butter instead of the peanut butter. You can also use cheese. You can take soft cheese, cream cheese, different types of soft cheeses, and spread them in the celery. And once you're done, we'll go to the next slide. Your celery should look like this, where we've got the filling in it. And then finally, we go to the next one and we want to put our toppings on. The one on the top has chocolate chips. The one on the bottom has raisins. You can use chocolate chips. You can use raisins. You can use any combination of nuts that you want and put them on top of that. And again, you can use peanut butter, cream cheese, or anything. And mom can make these, and you can help by putting the peanut butter on and then putting the chips on. And then you can sit down and have a neat snack. And when someone says to you, "What'd you have for a snack?" you tell them, "Why, I had ants on a log." Haven't you had ants on a log? So these are really fun to eat, fun to prepare. Any questions? Hi, sweetie.
Oh, it's cute. Oh my gosh, adorable.
No questions.
Questions.
All right. Let's go on to banana boats.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, fun banana boats. I have two sons. And growing up, they were in scouts, and we used to go camping, and we'd go sleep out with the scouts. And banana boats were a staple. They're really neat because they're easy to prepare, they're healthy, and you can take them on trips with you. Basically, we're talking 8 bananas, a bag of caramel bits or caramels cut into pieces, a bag of mini chocolate chips, a bag of marshmallows, and some original graham crackers crushed into crumbs. If we can go to the next slide, here we see we've got the sea salt caramels, we've got mini chocolate chips, behind them are the bananas, I've got some aluminum foil, I've got a bag of mini marshmallows, and I've got some graham crackers. What you want to do is you want to take the graham crackers, put 1 or 2 graham crackers in a little zip bag and just put them on the counter, and using a rolling pin or your hand, you want to crush them up. You want to make crumbs. We go to the next slide. The next thing you want to do is you want to open up the banana, but you don't want to cut through it. So what you gently do is you go through the skin into the banana itself, and then holding the banana in both hands, gently push towards the middle so it opens up like you see here, because that's where we're going to put all the filling ingredients. We're going to put them in our banana. And we can go to the next slide. Here you see the banana stuffed. Now in the bottom of the banana, I've got some caramel bits. I've got some mini chocolate chips. I put some raisins in, and you noticed on top of the chocolate chips, I sprinkled the graham crackers. And that's going to be our filling. And then what we're going to do, we're going to wrap the banana in foil. Now this is the finished product. But what we'll do is we wrap the banana in foil and we put it in the oven. And you only want to heat it there for about, I don't know, a couple minutes. It depends on how much chocolate you put in. I would say you could probably put it in the oven. What do we have here? Cook for about 3 or 4 minutes. You just want to let everything melt. I talk about an 8 by 10 inch size piece of foil, but that would be a standard size banana. But if you find yourself with some extra big bananas, you just need a bigger piece of foil. When you wrap the banana in the foil, I want you to wrap it, but don't wrap it tightly. I want you to wrap it around the sides and then leave space on top in case anything needs to expand, because the marshmallows will melt and they do expand. Now, here's the secret to the fun banana boats. If you're going camping, what you do is you take your bananas, you don't cut them, you keep them whole. You take a box of foil and you take the fillings and you keep them all separate. And when you're camping, you wait until after you've had your hamburgers and hot dogs and everything. And then you say, Mom, let's have the banana boats. So that's when Mom splits the bananas, puts the stuff in, wraps them up, and you put these right on the grill. Again, we're talking 3 or 4 minutes. You just want everything to melt. And then you can take them off and have your parent open up the foil. Now, the secret here, guys, don't eat it right away. See how hot it is before you give it to a child, because if the grill was hot and everything is really melting, you don't want to give them something that's going to burn them. So you let it just sort of cool a minute with a spoon. You mix it all up. The banana's gotten nice and soft, and it's got chocolate, you got marshmallows, you got graham crackers. And it's a great, tasty treat, and I'm sure your children are going to love it. Are there any questions? No questions.
Quiet group.
It's a quiet group. It is. Oh, yum. That's not a question. They are good. Let me tell you, I forgot really how well they were when I made that one and let it cool. I ate it. It just was, so someone who's a diabetic, that's not the best of things for me to be eating, but I did enjoy it. It really was fun. Okay, if no one has any questions, we'll go on to number 5. Yes, you could put a strawberry on it. You could put strawberries on it. You could put any fruit you want on the bananas. I'm assuming that's what the question was. Okay. All right, pumpkin with raisin and walnut biscotti. Biscotti in Italian means twice baked. It's a cookie that is baked twice. You will need nonstick cooking spray. You will need 1 box of Pillsbury pumpkin flavored quick bread and muffin mix. You will need 1/2 cup unsalted butter, 2 eggs, 1 cup golden raisins, and 1/2 cup chopped and toasted walnuts. If we can go to show the picture of the ingredients, here we are. We're using the quick bread. You can use the date or the cranberry muffin bread mix too. Either one will work fine, and you follow the same recipe. So you want to start off with a sheet pan, what we call a sheet pan, which is a cookie sheet, but it's rimmed. And on this one, you see I have parchment paper. You want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You want to spray the pan. If you don't have parchment paper, spray the pan with nonstick spray. If you have parchment paper, spray the corners and then put the parchment paper down. The reason you spray the corners is so the parchment paper doesn't go sliding all over. Here's what we're going to do. In a large bowl, we're going to take the bread mix, and I made a change on the instructions, and that's what I want to talk to you about. You dump the mix into a mixing bowl, and then I added the raisins and walnuts before I added the wet ingredients. The reason you want to do that, once you add the wet ingredients, it becomes a very thick dough, and it's harder to get the nuts and raisins incorporated throughout. If you put them in when the dough is dry, the mix, you dump them in, you take a spoon and you just stir it around, you get a nice, thorough blending of the raisins and the nuts throughout the dough. So when you start to add your eggs and your melted butter and mix it, they mix very well. If we can go to the next slide. Once you get the dough mixed and you've put in, you started off with the mix, you put your raisins and nuts in, you stirred them up, you then added the melted butter, and it is melted butter you want, and the 2 eggs. And I always mix my eggs before I put them in so that the yolks and whites are blended. And then you just go ahead, this is a metal bowl, and I used a spatula, and you just keep turning it, mixing it till it becomes thoroughly incorporated. It is very thick. It's sort of like clay almost. And then you divide it in half. So you've got 2 separate sections like I have here. And if we can go to the next slide. What you do then is you take those 2 sections and you place them on your sheet pan. What I do is at this point, I spray my hands, or spray one hand with the nonstick spray and rub them together so that when I form the 2 loaves, I can press down on it and I don't come away with half the batter stuck to my hands. And what you want to do is shape them sort of like a football. Press them down, press them out, and then, but you don't want them too thin because you want to have some decent depth to the cookie, but you do want to shape them. And then this is very important. Once you have them this way, they have to go in the refrigerator for half an hour. And it's important because that helps everything set up. It helps the bread mix set up, the eggs and the butter start to become solid, a part of the mixture. So what I do is I put it in for 30 minutes and I just watch the timer, and then usually at around 20 minutes after they're in, I go ahead and preheat my oven to 350 degrees. Can we have the next slide, please? Here you see the finished product. I've taken one out. You notice the gloss is gone. Now, because we have to bake these twice and we're making cookies, we have to cut them. There's several things you need to know. A, taking them, when you take them out of the oven, you bake the loaves for 25 to 30 minutes. I personally bake mine 27 minutes, and that's fine. I've always done that. Everything comes out fine. They're a nice light golden brown. I remove them from the oven and I cool them on the pan for 15 minutes. I put the pan on a cooling rack and set the timer for 15 minutes. That allows everything to sort of come together again, so it's not too soft. Here is where it gets a little tricky. You will need a large spatula or 2 spatulas to lift this off, because you cannot lift it up because it's not fully cooked and it will break or fall apart. So I have a large spatula that you could use like if you were doing pizza or something, and another small spatula. And I put my cutting board right next to the baking pan, and I just sort of lift it and slide it over to the cutting board. And you see it on the cutting board. Now, to cut it, you have 2 options. You can use a bread knife because it is baked and it does have some tendency to it. Or I have found what works best is to use an electric knife, because the electric knife cuts through it and it avoids a lot of the crumbling that using a bread knife would do. And I start off cutting it into slices fully across, and then I turn the loaf and I cut down the middle. So whereas I would normally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slices, I now have 16. You then take these pieces and you put them back on the cookie sheet. And I think we have a slide of that. Nope, I'm sorry, we don't. You put them back on the cookie sheet. You stand them on end. See how they're on the plate on end? You put them back on the cookie sheet that way. and you bake an additional 6 or 7 minutes on side one. You take them out, you turn them, and bake another 6 or 7 minutes. And then you take them out and let them cool on a wire rack. And then you can put them into a airtight container, and they will last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Mine last less than a week because we eat them. They're really great. They get, the longer they sit, the crunchier they become. They're great for dipping into coffee or tea. They're great just for a snack. They're really flavorful. I saw someone ask, could we use chocolate chips? Yes, I've done them with chocolate chips. If you use the cranberry loaf, which actually has cranberries in the package, I do it with cranberries, and then I put a couple white chocolate chips in with that one. And I just follow the same directions that I have here, make the same thing. And again, these are hits. I have taken these biscottis, I can't tell you how many times, to different events, and I never bring any home. They eat them all, always. My children, my grandchildren always say, you know, Pop, can you make some biscotti? My granddaughter's coming home from college Wednesday, and that's one of the first things she said, can you make biscotti? So I'll be making biscotti tomorrow, probably. Do we have any questions?
Anybody have questions? I saw, is this Leslie? You have to unmute yourself.
Did you have a question, Nola?
No. You just wanted to say hi.
Yeah. They're very excited about all these. They're ready to go right now.
Oh, she's cute. Oh my gosh. Someone asked if you've ever tried to make biscotti thins.
I haven't. I like them thicker, but I know they do make some that are thinner, and you can thin them out. What you'd end up doing, I get 2 loaves on 1 sheet pan. If you wanted to thin them out, you would need 2 sheet pans. Spread them out a little bit more and do it that way. The problem with spreading them out is getting them off the sheet pan so that you can cut them. Now, if you don't have parchment paper underneath, you can probably keep it on the sheet pan and maybe cut it on the pan. But if there's parchment paper underneath, it's kind of hard to use an electric knife or something to slice them. But they're great. Now, you could make round ones. You could run them out and then use a cookie cutter and just cut out round biscottis and just cook them one time if you wanted. And you'd have round biscotti cookies. So there's all sorts of different things you can do. Once you've made a recipe, I always tell people, follow the directions the first time. First time you make something, it's usually a good idea to follow the directions. Once you've made it, you can sit down and say, okay, gee, I think I'll make it thinner, or I'll make it thicker, or I want to cut out rounds instead of squares. Maybe I want to cook it a little bit more than 27 minutes. So it's cooked a little stiffer or a little less, and it'll be softer. I want to put in different ingredients. I want to put in peanuts, and I want to put in raisins or something, or I want to sprinkle coconut on it or whatever. Use craisins. Craisins are great. I love craisins. Dried cherries are another thing you can do. So once you see how the recipe goes and you followed it, then you can start to make changes and make it your own. And that's what happens. A lot of times my children would always ask me, they'd say, Dad, remember you made this, can you send me the recipe? And I have a hard time because I don't remember the recipe. I don't remember what I made. I have to ask them, what was it you remember? Because I change things constantly. I'll get ready to do a recipe and find that I don't have an ingredient. I don't have craisins, or I don't have walnuts. And so I'll just see what's in the kitchen and I'll add it. And we'll see how it goes. I have tried other cake mixes, but they have not been as successful as the Pillsbury. Pillsbury seems to work best, and the pumpkin, date, and the cranberry seem to be the three that work well. And you follow the recipe as I gave it to you, not what's on the box, because the box recipe produces a different product. Did someone have a question that I saw flashed up on the screen?
I don't see anything else. Had somebody else join us.
Oh, good. Now those were the recipes that I made samples of, and we took pictures of. There are still 4 other recipes, and we can take a moment and talk about them. And you should have them because they're part of the package, right? And did you print them out with these slides or not?
I sent it as an attachment to the email, but I can certainly do that here as well.
Because we talk about the cheeseburger and tater tot casserole.
Hold on, I'm seeing if I can pull that up.
Okay. Oh, do we have any tips for s'mores pie? I do have s'mores pie listed.
All right.
There we
There's
go.
the recipe.
And we'll get back to s'mores pie. This is cheeseburger and tater tot casserole. I love cheeseburgers, and I love tater tots. And I just thought this one would be neat because really, other than just having to cook a pound of beef, everything else is just put it together. So you want to start off, preheat your oven to 425 degrees. You want to take your tater tots. You are going to need a 9 or 10 inch glass pie plate. A deep dish would be fine. Firmly press the tater tots, and they should be thawed so they're not frozen. And you press them into the pie along the bottom and sides to form a base. Basically, you're making a crust, and you're going to bake it 15 minutes. While that is baking, you want to chop the onion and take your pickle spears and slice them. In a 10-inch skillet or 8-inch skillet, not anything smaller because you've got a pound of meat, you want to heat the oil on medium-high heat and add the onion. You want to cook the onion about 3 or 4 minutes until it starts to turn golden, and you want to stir it. Add the beef and cook the beef 4 to 5 minutes until browned, and you want to use a wooden spoon or something and stir it and break up the meat with the back of a spoon. Now here's a tip I can tell you, which is easy sometimes if the meat is cold. You know the potato masher everybody has in the kitchen? Well, you can break up the meat with a potato masher, and it does really great job of spreading it around and getting it cooked. So if you have a potato masher, go ahead and break up the meat. Once you've got the meat browned and the onions, you want to remove from the heat and stir in the pickles and the seasoning, and you want to salt and pepper to taste. Now, I know everybody always says, well, what is to taste? It's exactly that. Start with a pinch of salt, a pinch of pepper, stir everything and taste it. If you're happy with it, that's to taste. If not, then either add a little bit more salt or a little bit more pepper. Just keep in mind, once you put it in, you can't take it out. So be careful with it. A pinch is a pinch, guys, not a handful. So once we've done this, we're going to transfer the beef mixture to the pie plate, and we're going to spread it even over the pie, the tater tot. You want to top with the cheddar cheese, and you want to bake it 15 minutes approximately, or until the cheese melts. While the casserole bakes, I want you to dice the tomato and thinly slice the romaine. And you want to sort of put those in a bowl, and with your hands, just sort of toss them so they become combined. Remove the casserole from the oven, and remember it's hot, so use oven mitts or something. I would let it cool a minute or two before I put the tomatoes and the lettuce on it. But then you want to spread the tomato and lettuce over the top. And now you want to drizzle it with the ketchup and mustard. And I would just make circles or back and forth. And there you go. You've got a tater tot cheesecake casserole type thing. And then you cut it into like what would be pie pieces and just serve it. Good. You like the idea of the potato masher. That's good. Sometimes, you know, you have equipment that says it's designed for this, but you find it works better using it the other way type thing. Does anyone have a question on our tater tot dish? Because we'll go to s'mores next.
I want to say that some people are telling you something, but not with their microphone on. They're sending you something in the chat place.
Oh, that's cute. In the chat place, they're sending you something.
Oh, you're going to send me something in the chat place.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. I bet you'd like cheesecake, wouldn't you? Tater tot cheeseburger pie. You think that sounds good? Yeah, okay. All right, let's talk about s'mores. Let me find it. S'mores pie. You all know what a s'more is, right? Oh,
She
yes.
likes it.
Yes, that's graham crackers and chocolate and marshmallows. And oh boy, she likes that. I can see that. So what we want to do here, what we're going to do, we have a 12-ounce bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 1 cup of heavy cream, and you want heavy cream, and I'll tell you why in a minute, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1 9-inch graham cracker pie crust. You can either get the light brown or you can get the chocolate one. And a couple of cups of mini marshmallows and cooking spray. So we want to add the chocolate chips to a medium heat-proof bowl. Got to have a heat-proof bowl. To a small pot, we add the cream and the butter, and we heat on low until the butter is completely melted and the cream is warm. The reason we use heavy cream, milk, light cream, and skim milk, when heated, if it's heated too high, it'll break. What that means is the butter fat and the water will separate. Heavy cream, on the other hand, you can boil heavy cream and it's fine. It's not going to break. So in this case, we use heavy cream and the butter. We heat it on low until the butter is completely melted and the cream is warm. We pour the cream mixture over the chocolate chips in the heat-proof bowl and let it stand a few minutes until the chocolate chips melt, stirring once or twice so everything is smooth. Then we stir in the vanilla. The proper name for chocolate chips that are melted with heavy cream is called ganache. It's a French word. And it's an equal part chips and chocolate and heavy cream. When ganache is cooled, that's what we make truffles out of. Just a little history on the chocolate. All right, so our chocolate's nice and smooth. We stir in the vanilla. Now we pour the chocolate into the crust. I want you at that point to take the crust and put it in the refrigerator for about 4 hours. Now here's a caveat. Do not cover the crust because the chocolate has to set up. If you cover the crust, there is a chance that the cover, the plastic wrap you're going to put over it will come in contact with the chocolate. And when you go to remove it, you'll pull the top layer of chocolate off. The chocolate gets a coating on it, and it solidifies. And if you put the plastic on it, it'll stick to the plastic. So when you take it off, now you have exposed the chocolate, and we really don't want to do that. What you want to do next before serving is you want to take the crust out of the refrigerator, and you want to preheat your broiler on high. You want to take the pie and with the marshmallows, spread them all over the top evenly and spread them all around. So the whole top of the pie is covered with marshmallows. And then you want to broil the marshmallows until they're toasted. And guys, we're talking 30 seconds, no more than a minute. That's all it's going to take. Once that's done, you remove the pie from the oven and you let it cool a couple minutes. Now you take a knife and you spray the blade with the nonstick cooking spray, and you start to slice the pie into slices and put them on. The reason we spray it is so that the chocolate and the melted marshmallows do not stick. I would probably, every time I cut it, I would run it under water, clean it, spray it again, and then I would slice the pie and then dish it out that way from there. Are there any questions?
There are a couple of people that had to leave that said thank you. They enjoyed the show.
I saw that. And, all right, we can go on. Let's talk about the peaches and cream pudding. This one's really easy. It's absolutely no cooking at all. Anyone can make this. All right, here we go. We're going to take 1 can, 15 ounces of peaches in natural juice. Now you can get sliced peaches, whole peaches, diced peaches. I would go with the diced peaches, but you want them in the natural juice. You're going to get 1 package, 4 serving size of vanilla instant pudding mix. You want to make sure it's the instant pudding mix. And you're going to need 1 cup of cold milk. You can use whole, 2%, or skim. So we're going to open our can of peaches, and we're going to pour the peaches into a small bowl, reserving the juice. Well, how do you do that, Chef? If I pour it in, the peaches are going to come out, and so is the juice. Depends on how the top of the can is. If it's a pop top, you just pop it a little, take the juice, pour it into a separate container, and then open the top and pour the peaches into another bowl. If it's not that, you're going to have to use a can opener. Start a can opener again, and then just take the can and pour the juice out, because you want to save that juice. That's going to become a part of our pudding. That's the second part of our pudding. And then put the peaches in a bowl. You want to mix the milk with the reserved peach juice in a medium bowl. A 4 serving size package of instant pudding requires 2 cups of milk to make the pudding. What we're doing here is we're using 1 cup of milk and approximately 1 cup of the peach juice to make the 2 cups. We add the package of pudding mix and we beat with a whisk for 2 minutes. You just want to set your timer for 2 minutes, and just, when we say beat with a whisk, I don't mean like you're making whipped cream, but I want you to move the whisk around in circles and back and forth, and just make sure everything gets blended and the pudding starts to firm up. The closer you get to the 2 minutes, the firmer the pudding will get. Once the 2 minutes are up, stir in the peaches. If they're whole peaches or half peaches, you may want to dice them up, so that cut them into small pieces. And you want to mix it well to incorporate. You then spoon this mixture into 4 or 5 small serving bowls. I would take each bowl and cover it with saran wrap, and you want to refrigerate them for at least an hour to allow the pudding to set up. Once you've done that, when you're ready to serve it, you can spoon on a tablespoon of Cool Whip or some Ready Whip, and that's it, peaches and cream pudding. Now, if you really want to make it neat, if you still have some graham cracker crumbs, sprinkle some graham cracker crumbs on top of the Cool Whip or the pudding, and it'll taste really neat. Any questions? No, you want to get as close to the 2 cups as you can. If you measure it out, start with the milk and then put the peach juice in. If you've got 2 cups, fine. If you've got a little extra peach juice, I wouldn't go over 2 cups. If you're short of the peach juice, if you have 1 3/4 cups, fine. I would go ahead and then fill the 2 cup measure the rest of the way with milk so that you have 2 cups. And that helps the pudding, keeps the pudding the way you want to do it. If you want to make it really good, don't use milk, use half and half. It'll be richer. But of course, richer also means fatter. You'll have more fat. Since flavor is a 3-letter word, F-A-T. Anyone else have a question? Do we have 12 things in the chat, or people have written things?
I don't see anything else new.
Okay. All right. Let me talk a minute about the kids' veggie platter. I put this in because I have found that when you give children options, they'll eat more than if you just put one item out. This is basically, I think most people have, you'll need a round platter that has about 3 or 4 separate spaces for food plus space in the center for a dip. These are what we tentatively would call chip and dip bowls, or if you'd put out snacks and you'd have celery and some tomatoes and maybe some sliced cucumbers and things like that. This is the type bowl you want that have 4 or 5 different spots. I think for children, I would probably have in one of the separate compartments, I'd put some small pretzels. In the other, I would put some mini carrots. Maybe in the third, I would put some pepperoni or summer sausage sliced into rounds. And then finally, maybe a diced apple or pear. If you're using apple or pear, you remember when you dice it, you want to have it in a bowl and sprinkle a little bit of lemon juice over it and toss it so it doesn't turn on you. You could also use sliced mini peppers. You could put strawberries. You could put blueberries. You could put orange segments. I mean, you put anything you want. The secret here is then in the middle of the plate, putting a dip. And you could use a veggie dip, a cream cheese dip, yogurt dip, almost any kind of dip you want. I did one of these recently. In fact, I just did a video for Fairfax TV, Channel 10. I'm not sure when they're going to air it, but one of it is cooking for kids, and we made this platter. And what we did is I told everybody we were having Walter's dip for the dip, and I took a container of a cream cheese dip, and I took 2 big black olives and sliced them and put them on there. And I took a little bit of carrot and put it underneath, and I took a piece of pepper and made a mouth, and then I took some of the leafy part of celery and put hair on it, and that was Walter's dip, and the kids just loved it. They thought that was the funniest thing in the world, to see a face on the dip. The whole thing here is that you want to give your children something they can eat that is healthy and they will enjoy, and that they have a little bit of variety. I've raised 3 children, and Lord knows, I know how many times they've said, I don't like this, or I'm not going to eat that, or why can't we have this or that? So basically here I'm giving them an option, and you put in that whatever your children like, and you put it out, and they and their friends can go at it and have a good time. It's a simple thing. It's just plating. That's all it really is. And the last thing we'll talk about is the strawberry cream cheese pancake stacks. These are fun. They're very simple. Again, this is absolutely no cooking. You want to take one package of frozen mini pancakes. When I say mini pancakes, I'm not talking silver dollar pancakes, because that's something different. But they do have packages of mini pancakes as opposed to a regular sized pancake. And I think they come 6 to a box, 3 each in a little plastic package. And what you want to do is you want to toast them according to package directions, which basically means you're going to take them out and defrost them and either put them in a toaster oven or a toaster, or you could use your own oven. You just want to toast them up slightly. Meanwhile, I want you to take 2 or 3 tablespoons of cream cheese to a small bowl and stir in 1 or 2 teaspoons of jelly fruit spread, whatever type you want. You can use raspberry, strawberry, blueberry, orange, whatever you want, whatever your kids like. Now, to make the stacks, you spread 1 mini pancake with the fruit cream cheese, and you top with another pancake. And then you top that with some more of the fruit cream cheese spread, and you top it with the 3rd pancake. Now you take your stacked pancakes and you wrap them in parchment paper and then foil, and you store them in the refrigerator for a later snack. And there are different types of pancakes. You can get some with blueberries, you can get some with chocolate chips. You make 2 pancake stacks per box. But the beautiful part of this, Mom, is you could probably make these while the children are studying or something and put them in the refrigerator. And if you wrap them in parchment paper, you can write the child's name on the parchment paper with a felt pen, and you could put Cindy on one and Chris on the other and John on the 3rd or whatever, and put them in the refrigerator, so that when the children are finished studying and they're hungry, you tell them, well, there's something in the refrigerator with your name on it. And kids love pancakes, and they're not that filling insofar as like eating a regular pancake, but they're fun and they'll enjoy it. Again, now we're talking here. We've got cream cheese, we've got jelly, we could put chocolate chips, we could put crushed peanuts, you put anything you want in there, whatever your kids like. But it gives them something to have fun with, and it's quick and easy. The reason I chose these recipes is very little cooking, so I don't have to worry about the children burning themselves. Not a whole lot of use for knives and forks. A lot of it, Mom, you can get set up and just have the child with you, and together you can put these together, and I think they'll enjoy them. So that is fun in the kitchen, having the kids in the kitchen and everything. And I hope you enjoyed it. That's basically what I have to say. If anybody has any comments, I am here and will be more than happy to answer questions or anything. On anything, any cooking question you've got. We're open for all of it. Everybody's quiet. It's the quietest group I think I've had in that. Now, I will tell you guys on December 19th, is it, Sharon?
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, on December 19th, we're doing our 2nd class, and it's called Knife Know-How. We're going to talk about how to use knives, information about knives, and how to handle them, how to slice, dice, and chop and everything. And because it's going to be close to Christmas, I'm also going to give you some hints and tips on how to prepare for the holidays. 10 years I did catering, and the holidays are the most hectic time. I think from October through the end of the year, I was busy every weekend. I worked every weekend. We were doing parties. Dot will tell you we would do one, finish it, and do another. It was not uncommon to do a party on a Saturday and a party on a Sunday. And it can get hectic. It can really get to you after a while. So what I'll try to do is put together some hints and tips on things that make it easier to do entertaining. The knife know-how, a lot of people always ask questions about knives. There are no secrets to them. There is a way you have to learn how to handle them. the right way so you don't hurt yourself, and the different type knives and things that we'll do. So that we'll do in December. Otherwise, I think on the
I do have a question.
yes.
Okay, I have a cast iron skillet, and someone helped me try to what do you call it?
Season.
Season it. Yes. Well, she told me to put oil on it, so I did that, and I put it in the oven. And when I took it out, it's still kind of sticky and gooey. So what can I do about that?
Okay, you're probably going to start over again. The new cast iron comes seasoned. The old cast iron, which has been around for 200 years. I mean, there are people using cast iron pots that their great grandmother had. What the seasoning does is it just sort of seals the pores. The bane of cast iron is soap. It takes off the seasoning. So what you want to do, I want you to take the pot and wash it. And wash it with hot soap and water and dry it. Dry it as dry as you can get it. When we talk about seasoning it with oil, take a vegetable oil, take a piece of paper towel, put a little vegetable oil on the paper towel. I don't want you to put a lot in the pan, and just spread it around the inside of the cast iron pan. And you put it in a warm oven and let it sit there for an hour or more. And then when it comes out, you wipe it off, and then you do it again. You take a little more oil, put it on, let the pan cool, and then repeat the process. What you don't repeat is the soap and water. And you do that 2 or 3 times, and you build up a patina on the pan, which is the seasoning, what's called the seasoning on the pan. And then you just let it dry completely. Wipe off any excess oil, just let it dry. The oil will protect the pan so that it doesn't get any rust or anything on it. Once you're finished with the pan and you use it, the easiest way to clean cast iron is with kosher salt. People say, oh, I cooked something in the cast iron and the food stuck, and how do I get it off? How do I scrape it off? Well, let the pan cool completely, run a little hot water in it, and run a sponge with a rough side or something. I don't want you to use any soap on it. Just run it around, see what you can do, dump the water out, then take a tablespoon of kosher salt and sprinkle it all over the pan, and then use a soft sponge or a soft cloth and just rub it all over the pan, and that will free up all the built cast iron, the built food particles that are on the pan. Rinse it in warm water, dry it totally, and if you want, just take a drop or 2 of oil, put it on a paper napkin or a paper towel, and run it around the pan and put the pan away.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot.
It's a lot of information. You can Google it and look.
Yeah.
The use of the kosher salt is it's an abrasive, but it's not going to hurt the pan, and it doesn't have any of the chemicals that dish soap has in it. It's
okay.
just
All right.
up the food and do that, and then your pan should be fine. The main thing is keep it dry so that it's always dry, because if you don't, it can rust. And if it gets rusty, then it starts to go downhill from there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right?
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can that be done with any type of salt that you have?
No, you would need either kosher salt or sea salt. It's got to be a coarse salt. Table salt, there are 3 types of salt that are commonly used, and I call them sand, grit, and pebbles. Sand or table salt both of them have the same consistency. If you pour table salt in your hand and you go to the beach and scoop up sand, they feel the same. Kosher salt has grit to it. If you put it in your hand and move it around, you'll feel the grit. Kosher salt does not have the chemicals table salt has, And kosher salt is the salt of preference. 99 out of 100 chefs use kosher salt all the time. The only time I use table salt is if I'm baking, because it will dissolve quicker than kosher salt. Sea salt is a finishing salt. Sea salt, really good sea salt, which can cost upwards of $100, $200 a pound, is very expensive, but it is absolutely to die for. You take fresh summer asparagus and peel them, blanch them, and then grill them. And then you finish them with a little sprinkling of sea salt, which is a finishing salt. And people are going to say, oh my God, how did you cook these? These are absolutely delicious. That's what sea salt does. It's a finishing salt. And you can get cheap sea salt and you can get expensive sea salt, like black sea salt from Hawaii, which is very expensive and is used very sparingly. But kosher salt is your standard salt. And you use it same as you do regular salt, teaspoon for teaspoon. There's really no difference other than kosher salt. It has a little bit more grit to it, and it doesn't have as many chemicals as finished table salt does.
Thank you. I didn't realize that.
You're more than welcome.
I just saw kosher salt in a recipe for meatloaf or something that I was making, and I wasn't sure, if it was equivalent. So
Yeah,
good to know.
they are. Most recipes call for, when you look at recipes, they say salt, period. You go to cooking school and you don't find salt, you find kosher salt. And you walk into restaurants, you find kosher salt. So I've been an advocate of telling everybody, buy kosher salt and just use that. I mean, unless I tell you otherwise, when I give you a recipe, it says salt, I want kosher salt. That's basically what I'm asking for. It's not that expensive. You use it just like you do the other type salt. It just, it doesn't work in a shaker because it's got little grains and it won't go through those tiny holes. So I use a little plastic bowl with a screw top and just keep it that way. Anyone else? All right, Sharon, I guess we are done.
All right. Thanks to everyone who's still here for joining us.
Thank you.
I think
And I saw Catherine wanted the slides, so I'll send that to your email.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are more than welcome. Hey, everybody. My email is chefcal, CHEFCAL 007 @yahoo.com. If you have a question, email me and I will answer you. I answer all my emails. So, and Sharon has the email if you didn't get a chance to write it down and everything. And we hope to see you next time. It's been fun. I love the children.
They're
They're
adorable.
really some real cuties out there.
They're adorable.
They were adorable. So with that, I'll bid you all adieu. Have a nice evening. Stay safe and happy cooking.
Take care.
Bye for now.